Welcome to the Bridge the Gap podcast. Here's your host, Dustin Udke.
Welcome in, everyone, to another Bridge the Gap podcast. We got a fun one tonight. We're going to be talking technology and how to integrate it into your life, into your business, the proper ways of doing that. Obviously, we know technology is ever-changing, ever-present. We got AI in the future. We've got augmented reality, all kinds of stuff. So let's talk about how we can do that. So if you're listening, you can jump in the chat, ask your questions. But I brought on someone that I had a conversation with in a space about AI, who I thought was real great. So I've got Nate Cheatham, who is the director of marketing and sales for Evernet, director of marketing for the Fantasy Football Expo, and the founder of IDP Plus, which is formerly IDP Guys. Nate, how is it going tonight?
It's going great. Thank you for having me on your show. And that was the first time I ever did something like that. And I was really impressed by it. I had a good time, and I think I need to do some more of those.
Yeah, I've done a couple of them. That was the first one I've really kind of hopped on and did a lot of talking on. So we did a Twitter or X space with Ronnie Evans talking AI, and he's the fantasy football AI kind of guru at this point. Just kind of talking about the implications of it, the how to implement it, and that kind of got me thinking about, like, this is a good topic to have. So Nate, why don't you give us a little bit of your background? Did you always see yourself running like a marketing agency? How did you get to this point in your career?
Yeah, so it's I don't know, a little bit of an odyssey getting to here, but I originally started out my career path into I was going to do psychology, and that turned into journalism. I went a really long way into journalism, so it took me a while to figure out really what I wanted to do. So I put about 8 years of college under my belt. Most of that, running newspaper, like my local school newspaper. I think I was a few credits shorts of a journalism degree, and I just kind of had this major shift about close to 10 years ago, where I just fell out of love with it. Didn't really want to be doing that aspect anymore, and shifted over to like graphic design. And so pursued a design degree. And in the meantime, I was, I know this isn't a football show, but we both kind of come from the football community. And so I got involved with creating football content while I was doing this design degree. I still had like journalism chops, and originally I was a little more like investigative journalism, news reporting. I switched over to sports writing, which I got involved with. I'm a big Detroit Lions fan, so I got involved with a podcast that just talked about Detroit Lions. It was kind of a fan site, and I started running that for a portion of time. While that was going on, I'm getting my design degree. I started to really get honed in on website design and website building. And, I got really into WordPress and how to configure these like highly technical, really functioning websites, which, being in the football community, there's a lot of things that go into these websites. There, you have a management or a membership platform often. So you have to be able to hide and show certain content, and then have an e-commerce platform where you can have, sales of your membership. But also there's, how do you display rankings? So how do you put like spreadsheets into a website? And all of these things kind of like were the building blocks for me of like, I'm testing it all out by founding this company, which was IDP Guys at the time. And so I'm building it, learning how to make all of these functions work together, and then finishing my degree. And basically right after college, I founded my own marketing agency, which was kind of more shifted towards just building websites for people. I did the other stuff, social media, um, any sort of marketing, email marketing on the side along with it. But my main core was, hey, I'm going to come in and design your website. Um, Over a couple years doing that, it's a starting any business is always difficult.
Yeah.
Um, my wife was a saint during both college and then me deciding to no, I'm not going to just get a job. Uh, I'm going to start my own thing, and it paid off in the long run, betting on myself because my current position, basically, I got connected to the owner of the company that I work for, Evernet, and he wanted me to come in and take over the management of his website. I kind of pitched him on this idea of like, hey, what if we do a marketing agency? His company was an IT support, and I was like, hey, it's we have this user base, we can just quickly
Yeah.
kind of market to them, build up a client base, and move forward. So we launched that 3 years ago. It's been pretty successful. I now run that team along with our sales team. Um, and so, kind of taking that chance, betting on yourself, is something that you hear athletes do, but you can actually do it yourself. Like you take your skill set and kind of, as long as you've got the runway, kind of go
Yeah.
for it and see what you can do.
No, I completely agree. Like betting on yourself is huge, right? If you have that runway and a saint of a wife who, or a saint of a partner who's going to allow you to do that. It's funny because you were saying you were doing psychology, the journalism, and those might see very different, but a lot of like marketing, a lot of sales is psychology, right? It's how do people react to these things. I was listening to a podcast today, the Colin and Samir podcast, which I talk about a lot and I listen to all the time. And the guy was on there was talking about the psychology of like what makes things go viral and the psychology of sales and the psychology of what makes a good YouTube video. So that's all part of it. And I think that those skill sets are definitely relatable. So what do you specifically specialize in regards to technology, and how advanced is your knowledge? Are you an expert? Are you a noob beyond just website design?
Yeah, so from a technology standpoint, like, look, I work for an IT support company. So if we're talking nuts and bolts of a computer, I'm going to pass that information off to the techs that I work with
Yep.
because, look, I mean, I understand how to make email work. I understand, the stuff that kind of is within websites, but you can't know everything. It's
Yep.
so exhaustive to know all facets of technology and how to use all of these different softwares. I really hone in on websites, and lately it's been getting into AI and as well as automation, which some of that is with AI and some automation without AI. It's just using connectors and moving data through different platforms to kind of accomplish what you need.
Yeah, and I think we're an adventure because we're of similar ages that we grew up in a world where I'm sure you remember a time when there was no computers.
Mhm.
Right. And I think
Yeah.
both of us probably came through school where you probably had a computer class where we got taught how to do email and typing in school. That was something they taught us. Now it just seems to be second nature. Like my son's 11. He can do all that stuff. Like they just assume he can email. And I'm like, I don't think he knows how to email. They're like, oh, he does. I'm like, how do you know this? He's like, I just do. He's like, he just gets it.
Yeah.
So I think that's part like, right. You don't know everything and you can't know everything. So you have to know where to pass it off. But I think you can specialize and, learn different skills. And right. I think you've done really well with this automation and AI. So let's talk about the kind of the history of tech integration. So what are some of the latest technologies that businesses are utilizing right now, and how do you compare that to the past?
Yeah. So, you talked a bit about like where we are now compared to like, I do remember that time before cell phones, before computers.
Yep.
Yes, I'm slowly turning to dust. Yesterday was my 38th birthday. So, well
Well,
aware
happy
of,
late birthday.
thank you. Well aware of like just how far we've come. And it's been so quick to think of, in my lifetime going from basically pre-internet to how do you exist without the internet?
Yeah.
And so like looking at businesses and just day to day like workflows, like how much has changed. I recently had a conversation with Bob Lung, who is the founder of the Fantasy Football Expo. He's got his own site, Big Guy Fantasy Sports, and he was kind of asking my opinion on, he's an accountant by trade, a CPA, and so he was talking about, okay, he's got these Excel spreadsheets, he's got to download them, he's got to run a script, and then he's got to re-upload them into a different software, and he's like, it takes 3 hours to do all of this, and I was like, Bob, I bet you I could probably make it happen at a push of the button, you know. And so I utilize, there's a couple different tools, but one of them is, if you're not familiar with it, Zapier, which is an API connection tool. It has 10,000 plus different connectors in different softwares that are, just readily used. QuickBooks is one of them. Obviously Excel, and just so many that I couldn't list them, but just core pieces where it's like, okay, so they already have this technology of, like, it's called an API. Now, just for those people that are like, AI, like, don't do anything AI, that's all bad. Just want to note, this has nothing to do with AI.
Yeah.
We are just moving data from one place to the next. And so with Zapier, you take it, say, from whatever your software, your CRM that you are utilizing this data, it will come out in this kind of signal from the software. Zapier will allow you to configure, like, and map where it's going to go, and if you need to format it in a different way, and then where is it going to connect into. So it could go right into QuickBooks, and then you can have it schedule run basically on a time. You can have it trigger based off of, like, did something new happen? So, like, did a new field get added, or did a tag get created? And whatever that trigger is, it could send it and move that data. And then, look, you're taking a 4-hour process and bringing it down to 15, 30 minutes that you may not even be aware of, or maybe it's running in real time, and it's just like, every time you add something here, within a couple minutes it's already to the other side. So, these are things where the time and place we're in, we can do this, where 20 years ago, or people that are like older thinking aren't necessarily doing it, and it's saving that time. Can you uh could you be working on something else? Could you, I mean, I hate to think that anyone would lose their job, because I'm definitely never a fan of that. But,
Yeah.
I mean, take any industry. If you go back to, building cars, when Henry Ford built the, what is it?
Model T.
Well, the plant, the
Yes.
conveyor belt
Conveyor
system.
belt. Yep. Assembly line. Yeah.
Assembly line, thank you. When he built the assembly line, I mean, that probably put away some jobs that were, like, more the craftsmen people that did the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then as robots kind of came into that, it's like, this is just an inevitable, economics is the study of change, so that's where we live. It's going to be constant change. So, utilize these technologies to your benefit, and incorporate them, into your business as much as possible. Obviously, you can get into AI and what that can do, and it's just kind of next level.
Yeah, we'll get into that. And I think what you're talking about, like this Zapier, these API tools, it's no different than converting a Word document to a PDF, right? They're two separate systems, and you just click a button and go, convert this to a PDF, and it does. And it simplifies that process. So that sounds like Zapier is doing the same thing, just between two other programs. It's just going, hey, we'll convert this to this. And that is an efficiency that I think we need to start building in, because there just needs to be that. Like you read, you can go work on something else. You can, it frees up your time to be more creative, problem solve, plan, vision casting, whatever it might be. Like, you need to free yourself up and utilizing the tools that are available to you.
Yeah, and just to get into, like, from a creative aspect, like, take this podcast. We were talking ahead of the show, like, this is your passion project. It's just you working on this, and there's so many things to get to. that it can be very, tough to capture everything, take every opportunity. And so, utilizing, and this is what I've set up even with my own podcast network and everything is, where basically when a show is uploaded to YouTube, say it's like recorded or it's live, it goes to YouTube. I have through Zapier where it will go and create the article that will publish on the website, which has the video embedded into it, and then from there it goes to if you've heard of Buffer, which is a social media platform, and we'll create these social posts and publish them. So it's like you've finished the podcast, and now all the work is done because it's all already published.
Yeah. And then we see a lot of that with social medias, right? There's people that want to use Twitter and Instagram and TikTok and Facebook, and they go on a different site that has, lets you post to all of them at once, right? Those are not, that's nothing new. It just creates that efficiency metric and that efficiency for people, right? Because again, a lot of these things are people's, whether you're just tweeting, whether you're trying to grow a base on a social platform, whether you're doing a podcast like this, and you want to do all the things that that you should be doing, but you just don't have the time, like finding an efficiency that can do that for you and frees up more time to do other things. Maybe, I listen to a lot of guys who are like, hey, you should come up with a new idea, like 10 new ideas every day. It's like, well, when am I going to have time to do that? Well, this would free you up to do that. So that's great. Can you give us some examples of companies you've assisted with tech solutions and what results there were from that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, kind of talking through even I gave a couple examples already. So, there's the one with my kind of football creative YouTube channel where we've created that workflow. From my day to day, I'm generally working with like a lot of professional services, so lawyers. I had a contact with an insurance company today, and setting things up so that like I think when it comes to business, the biggest hurdle is always how do you take in inbound leads and sales and processes. Like somebody comes to you, you have a product, and they say, they use the contact form and they say, I'm interested. You would be so surprised at how many companies are almost crippled at that moment where they just don't have an effective solution to process that efficiently. It becomes a fire drill where, oh, hey, somebody's called in, there's an email, who's going to get it, routing that to the right person. And all of this time you're wasting precious moments because you have someone that's right now, I'm interested. And there's kind of a timer because at some point they may become not interested because you did not get back to them in time, or they found a better solution. So creating an intake form workflow where it integrates into like a CRM, customer relationship managers is what that is. It's basically a database of people that have, you're in contact with, and you're utilizing that to know like, okay, what did I send them, last week in an email, or where are they in the sales process? Creating a workflow that one, utilizes technology and automation so that, somebody sends an email in, that data gets moved directly into your CRM, and then that CRM can immediately fire off an email to them that just says, welcome, here's the person that you want to talk to. And then, you can even take it a next step where, we use like a Calendly or a scheduler that could be sent along with that email. So that person can say, yes, I'm so interested. I want to book, Wednesday at noon for a meeting with you. And then, it takes care of that fire drill moment, creates an efficient workflow, and ultimately should result in more business for your company.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think there's a lot of things that technology can do, and I think that's a great way of those things can be done by hands, right? Like you can have someone, get the email. Some customer goes on, fills out a form, get the email, reach out, type up an email, or copy and paste it.
Sure.
But having it automated is so much easier.
Mm-hmm.
So integrating tech is something that I think people need to do in business. I think they need to do it in life. What, in your experience, has been some of the best practices when integrating tech?
Yeah. So, it's being mindful of what it is that you're doing and making sure that you kind of complete the project. There's so many times that you can kind of get halfway through something and it's like you move on and it's still kind of happening, but you're not necessarily utilizing it. And many times that results in like extra billings or, something that you're paying for where you're like, well, I don't want to not pay for it and not get this service, but I'm not using all of it.
Yeah.
So kind of making sure from a best practices, yeah, do it efficiently, set it up right. But also be mindful of like, your personal information, is that tied into this somehow? Is it open for somebody to come in and like hack your email and take get access to your credit cards, those kind of things? With technology, I mean, let's take the Starbucks app. My wife had her credit cards in the Starbucks app itself, so that when she bought her coffee and did a mobile order, it was like a quick, hey,
Yep.
just run it through the app, go through the drive-through line, and it was a quick in and out kind of a thing. She got a notification on her phone that she was getting her credit cards were denying Starbucks purchasing gift cards on her behalf. And she's like, I'm not doing this. And it was like back to back to back. Like someone ran like 100 potential transactions. And so, this is a case of utilizing technology, utilizing something that is a convenience. And what we did was, I mean, she still uses it, but she pulled all of those credit cards off of the app and now just she pays with Apple Pay. So taking that next level of security and technology and utilizing Apple Pay as a buffer so that somebody can't hack into a Starbucks app and get access to her cards. So kind of thinking along those lines of like, how can you hold yourself from getting attacked or putting yourself in jeopardy by using things that are a little more secure.
Yeah, I think that's a great best practice. One thing I've learned, working in my professional life is making sure the program is going to do what it says it's going to do or what you think it's going to do. I found a lot of times that people go like, hey, this program is going to do everything we need. And then someone goes, but does it do X, Y? And they go, I think so. And then they launch it and it doesn't do it. And making sure you have that like initial launch support, because a lot of times a program will get launched and it doesn't work right the first week, 2 weeks, and there's all these bugs that need to be worked out. That's huge. I'm a big believer in second generation. I don't like to do anything first generation, like new tech, right? The first iPhone came out, I'm like, I'm out until the second one comes out. Like the first iPad, I was like, no, I'll wait till the second one comes out because I want to make sure like they work out the bugs. There's always going to be simple things like, again, people don't know what they don't know, so they think they have everything tested, and then it gets in the real world and it's completely different. And we were seeing it with, the Switch 2, which is the second generation, but they changed the handles and there's all this like functionality that's just weird with it. So it's like, okay, I'm glad I didn't buy the Switch 2 right away because they changed a lot of things on it. And I even waited for the Switch 1 to 2-3 years after it was out. I was like, okay, let me make sure this actually functions the way it does. So I'm never like an early adopter because I just don't want to deal with the bugs. I am not super tech savvy, so I don't want to deal with all this like stuff that could be like product tested out in real time.
Yeah, and it feels like that's more and more this age is like, how do we get something to market as soon as possible, and then we'll kind of fix it on the fly. So you never want to be caught in the testers that kind of get screwed over in that sense. I'm I was really looking forward to the Apple Intelligence coming out, and I've got an iPhone 12. So what is that? 4 years, 5 years old at this
4
point.
versions ago, yeah.
Yeah. So I was ready to make an upgrade. this Apple Intelligence coming to the iPhone 16, and I was kind of like leaning towards getting it, and then I just happened to hold off, and all of these bugs coming out of it. It's not really working, and everyone's saying, "Well, really, the 17 is going to be the better one." So we'll see. I will probably be making the move, the upgrade there, just because I am starting to really integrate AI into my life, just um, my day to day, even outside of work.
Yeah.
So like my phone has right at the top, it's got I can't say the word because she will start talking,
Yep.
you know, and then I've got ChatGPT a widget as well, and so I can really quickly get to those things. And it's taken some time. I've let my life just show how much I'm using it, and then I switched my phone basically from having apps on all of these different pages to I have it's really funny. It's a widget that just shows your most used apps
Hmm.
based on the time of day and based on like your
Hmm.
habits. So there's only actually like 8 apps that are
Interesting.
displayed on my phone, and it just kind of swaps out. So
That's really interesting. That's a great way of like integrating tech into your life. So let's say you're in someone like your position where you are a tech savvy person, a tech heavy user in real life, and you have this piece of tech that you want to bring into your or workplace, or maybe your life, and you want to convince your significant other or your family. How do you pitch to an executive team the need for integrating technology in a way that they buy into that solution? Because I think that's a big thing. Like, how do you get someone else to buy into the tech that you think is valuable?
well, oftentimes it comes down to either time or money. So are
Yes.
you making their lives go, more efficient from a time aspect, or are you saving them money? And look, that's kind of my almost day-to-day job is working with different owners and kind of identifying, hey, this is the technology you need, and then getting them to realize that as well. And you got to be very patient. You got to explain it really well, especially when someone's not like a tech savvy person, and kind of pitch it from the standpoint of like, how do you normally go through your life? How will this change it? And if you do that well enough, and it's good enough technology, like if you're right on the border where it's like this really isn't saving time. It's really not saving money. It's just something cool that I want to do. Well, now you're just going based off of what's your relationship with this person and do they trust you?
Yeah. Yeah. I try to avoid the C word, the cool world. Like, this is cool. And someone's like,
Mhm.
okay, and I'm like, but
Right.
it's cool. And they're like, and I'm like, but it's cool. And they're like, and I'm like, I don't have anything other than that. Which, like,
Yeah.
cool is something, but it's not, especially when you're trying to integrate it to someone who's going to have to either pay for that software or upgrade equipment. It's hard for them to buy in on cool. I think you do have to explain the benefits. And something I always talk about here is like, get someone attached to the why, like why we need
Mhm.
this, why this is important, why this will help us. And they're more willing to buy into that, whether that's technology or anything. Like, if you text someone to the why, they're going to buy in.
Yeah.
I also think there's a difference. Like, how do you get buy-in from an employee or customers when tech? So, right, I remember a day before the captchas, right? Before
Mhm.
that was a thing. I remember before we had to do multi-factor authentications. I remember days before that. I remember when you have to go to websites, it's like, hey, if you want to read this, like, give us your email. And you're like, I don't want
Yeah.
to. How do you get the buy-in from a customer or a client or an employee when you're trying to integrate tech?
A lot of time it's explanation.
Yeah.
Still goes back to the why, but I think there's an education that has to happen when you're kind of moving into employee or customer. And I will be honest, sometimes that still doesn't work. You can put something in place where you think it's, hey, this should work really well, and it just doesn't track. And you got to really watch habits. So
Yeah.
especially when you're talking about customers, these are people that you don't always have the opportunity to speak to directly. You
Hmm.
have to allow whatever it is to work, and it's like there's a great video that I saw on TikTok. It's kind of a meme where it's your developer kind of in one window, and then it's someone using. I'm sure the old kids game, which is the blocks, the different shaped blocks into the holes in the bucket. So you've got the triangle one, you've got the square one, and so it's the developer's reaction as this person is putting a square block into the square hole, and then picks up a rectangle block and puts it into the square hole.
Yep.
Then picks up a triangle block and puts it into the square hole.
Yep.
And through this, the developer is just like losing their crap because they're like, that's not how this was supposed to work. So you have to be able to allow the technology to be intuitive enough for them without any explanation to get through it. And that's where you get like truly lifestyle changing technology, is when it just kind of works. You look back at like how Facebook came to be, how the iPhone came to be. These technologies just fit into life. We didn't mold around it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It has to be, when I was listening to talking about innovation, right? Innovation needs to feel similar but different, right? And you can't go more than like one step past what is already there, right?
Mhm.
So Facebook became a thing where it was like, hey, we're used to chat rooms and those sort of things, and this is the next step. And right, really, MySpace was the next step, and then Facebook was an iteration of MySpace, and that's how these. And then right, Instagram became an iteration of Facebook and Twitter, right? So that's what you have to do. You can't just go, hey, here's a whole new thing. I think that's where things like augmented reality glasses, like the Google Lens and those sort of things, and even like the Pro Visions, like it's just so different because it's this big contraption. It just was too many steps away from what's normal. And you can't just make that big a leap. It doesn't fit into their life.
Yeah, and I'm sure. So you're a glasses wearer.
Yep.
So for you, like you know the feeling of having something on your face. I am waiting for the moment where I can walk in, get my glasses, the technology, and put it into it, and have all of this, because I am ready for it. Like I've been on the edge of purchasing the Vision Pros from Apple. I'm kind of looking for. I think they're going to come out with a more budget friendly version.
Yeah.
But I fly a lot, so I do a lot of traveling, and for me, it's like, holy crap, I can be in an airplane, which right now with my laptop, like you feel so clustered in, and I can do some work. I think I'm getting to the point where I'm like, I gotta like be in business class if I'm going to be working on the plane or something, give my elbows some room. But with the Pro Vision, you can have these monitors just in front of you. And if you guys could see the way my desk is set up, is I've got the iMac, and then I've got two 32-inch TVs that are vertical.
Yep.
So that I have this massive screen space, and I could do that on an airplane. And with the with these provisions, and just kind of feel like I'm working from my desk. But
and that'll carry with you, right? Because whatever you see there, you could take to your hotel room.
Yeah,
and it's the same thing. I agree. I think that would be so cool. I would love, I have a whiteboard over here, and I have a big whiteboard. I have a big, like 6x4 foot whiteboard at work, and I just have stuff all over because I'm brainstorming stuff at different corners, and they make a whiteboard paint, and I was like, oh, that'd be real cool, but I hear it doesn't really function that well as a whiteboard. I was watching a video about the glasses that people at TED Talks wear, and they're basically like a built-in teleprompter into the glasses. That's why a lot of them wear the same, like their same black rooms. It's just this built-in teleprompter that they see right in front of them. I was like, oh, that makes sense because that's just the technology you need. But it's just glass at that point. It's not this big, bulky thing. I've done some VR stuff, and it's tough with glasses. Like put that on top, and you're like, okay, I can't really see. You got to take your glasses off. Then my vision's not that good. So that's hard. You're right. It is all about just making something that's seamless into the life. Like, I look at those like refrigerators that have like the knock door where you can like knock on it and see what's in there. Cool. It also has to be like useful. I don't really find that super useful, but at least they're trying to innovate there. I was talking to someone about innovation. I was like, there's things that just have never been, like a toaster hasn't been innovated in 50 years. There's just not a lot of innovation that goes in toasters. I mean, now you're getting programmable ones, and they can burn different, your favorite character on the side, whatever it is. But other than that, there's not a whole lot of innovation in toasters because it just doesn't need to innovate. And I think sometimes innovation in technology, it's innovating and creating technology just for the sake of innovation and creating technology, not because it's actually useful or what people actually are going to use or want. They go, oh, we made this cool thing. It's like, cool, who wants that?
Yeah.
I don't know. Somebody will, small niche of people. Sure.
Sure. Yeah. There was a clip that I was watching of a recent Neil deGrasse Tyson interview where he was talking about, I think it was on his show, and his co-host was talking about, when are we going to get flying cars? When are we going to kind of move around like the Jetsons? And he said, we're already living in that world. That's what an overpass is a three-dimensional roadway. And so, like, if we need to cross a road and be above something else, like, we can keep building up.
Down.
Right. So, you look at some of the big things that in Boston, there was the big dig with the highway there. And, if we've kind of have unlimited resources there. So it's like, we don't need a car that can kind of drive in three-dimensional space, even though people are really trying hard to make helicopter cars and all of those kind of things. But we can just already have these massive roadways where there's 15 different highways passing through each other. It already looks like the Jetsons. So
if you look at a major city and those like intertwine where it's like, I drive to Milwaukee and Chicago, it's like, above and below and intertwining. I mean, even think just like the channel that goes from London, from England to France, like that's a roadway under a major body of water. That is pretty futuristic. And though it's all the way, it's already, 50, 60 years old, or however old it is, like that's something that we would expect. And I always, when people talk about the Jetsons, it's like, yeah, but why were they in the sky? Like, what happened to the ground that they couldn't be on the ground anymore? Like, why are they all in the sky? Like, what's going on there? Like, is there a reason why they can't be on the ground? Because that seems more.
It feels very like Cloud City or Coruscant in Star Wars, where they're all living in the clouds because it's just the underworld.
It's just
below that.
But I mean, I think that's the thing, right? People want to make a flying car because they're like, well, we were promised flying cars. It's like, yeah, but no one really wants a flying car. Most people don't even want to get in a helicopter because they're not the safest mode of transportation to begin with.
So, I mean, there's a lot of flying issues that have been happening this past, 12 months that, look, I refuse to fly into DC now because of it.
Yeah.
It's kind of alarming considering the amount of technology that we have. It should be a lot safer to do these things.
Well, we've seen videos. I mean, Mr. Beast did a video of, or not Mr. Beast, Mark Rober did one on, is it, the camera system in a Tesla for their self-driving cars or LiDAR, and which one's better? And like what, the camera system basically got duped by fog and all these other things where the LiDAR didn't. And so it's like, well, that's a problem because I don't want to. If I'm going to get a self-driving car, I don't want one that has a camera now because I know that it can't see everything that where like a LiDAR can. But again, getting LiDAR technology to be a price point that people can use it and put it in cars and make it, cost effective for an average person to buy one, we're just not there. But we'll get there, right? I think that's where we talk about computers. Computers were super expensive and huge, right?
Yeah.
When they first came out, they took up the size of a warehouse, and now they're in our hands on a smartphone,
on our watch,
on our watch,
wrist. But and here's the thing: I would claim to be a technologist, but whatever they do to the mechanics of a car always scare me.
Yes,
because I am very aware of breakdown rates. Like you have a jalopy, a car from like the 90s that is somehow still kicking. And I know that, at some point the brakes are going to go, something's going to happen in the engine. Like, what happens to all these self-driving cars when, the 15th owner has it 30 years from now and they're on the highway and the automatic braking system just decides to go off because it's, just the way, the wind blew that day and causes like a 15-car pileup. Like, those things freak me out because there's a human being in there that has no ability to take control.
Yeah, that's why I'm like not a first generation guy. Like I'm not going to do first. I'll probably wait till fourth generation on those sort of things because I want all the bugs fixed right now. I want all the best
Yeah.
technology. And right, we don't see technology. A toaster hasn't been innovated on because there is no need to innovate on it because
Sure.
we don't need it. We need innovation in some of these other things. Like we need electric cars became an innovation because we need to get away from fossil fuels for the environment and because it's cost prohibitive. But there's something they're like, what do we do when a battery just blows up in a car? Well,
Yeah.
I mean, you never hear of a gas tank just randomly blowing up. I mean, they blow up if they, spark gets still, but like a battery can just all of a sudden just combust. Like,
Yeah.
I'm worried about that.
Right. And you also have the economic or the environmental impact of the metals that are
Yes.
used in these batteries, or the economic or near slavery conditions in the
Yeah.
countries where they're mining this stuff. Like there's a lot of also negatives where the intention was good.
Yeah.
And it's something that we're going to work through. And I think that there's solutions to these problems and we'll get through it. But we're in that kind of transition period in our country where we're trying a lot of different things, and we'll kind of get into like a new generation of some of these, especially travel,
Yeah.
over the next probably decade.
Yeah. And we kind of touched on some of the benefits and risks of technology. I think those are some of the things where there is just risk of failure, the breakdown rates, in any technology. The more unknown it is. Like a typical car breaks down. Every town has a mechanic, and if they don't, they have someone who's probably mechanically inclined.
Yeah.
If an electric car breaks down and you're in the middle of nowhere in Nebraska, ain't no one know how to fix that sucker.
Yeah.
And so that's part of one of the risks. There's definitely, obviously, we've talked about the time savings that technology can have for you, the efficiencies it can make for you, the ease of use that they can bring to your life. Those are all great things, but there's a ton of risk too. So I think that's something people need to weigh out when they're talking about integrating technology into work or life is, does the benefits outweigh the risks?
Yeah. And have you done enough research? Like,
Yeah.
do you feel confident in what you're going to do, what you're going to use? Because if you're doing it because the person next to you is doing it and you don't fully understand what you're getting involved in, that can open you up to unknown risks that, you find out about, once something bad happens.
Yeah. Or just it's a waste of money. I live in Wisconsin and I would love to put solar on our house, but
Mhm.
we don't have enough. We have too many gray days where we
Mm.
just don't get enough sun. So, like, if I were to put it on there, yeah, it's cool. It's great for the environment. It's cool to say I have solar, but it's just not going to be cost effective for me. So, you need to do research. You can't just go, yeah, put solar on because I want to help the environment. Where it doesn't really help me. It's just a waste of my money.
Yeah, and there's a lot of solar companies, at least by me, that are kind of predatory,
Yes.
where basically they come in and they say, "Oh, you're going to reduce your bill, you're going to be more environmentally friendly," but they put you in some massive loan that's going to take you 20 years to pay
Yep.
off, and ends up costing more, and could put you in jeopardy of ever being able to sell your house during that time.
Yeah. No, I agree. Let's talk about the big bad AI, because I think that is when people hear technology, they think that is where we're headed. I want to broach the subject just a little bit. And if you guys have questions, feel free to ask them in the chat, hit the like and subscribe, all those things. What's your experience with AI? Where do you see AI? Where is it at now? Where do you see it going?
Yeah. So we have seen a lot of advances in AI in just the last, I want to say 4 years publicly. Obviously, there's been a lot of time that this has been around. You talk to Ronnie Evans, or in that chat spaces we were in. AI technically has been around 20, 30 years. But where we're at just in the last 3 or 4 years from a public standpoint and public adoption has been moving really rapidly. And I do want to address, uh, the comment that you brought up of, have we discussed any concerns with AI? I mean, off the top, the biggest concern that everyone's talking about is people just getting displaced from work.
Yeah.
Does this take on somebody's role and move us away from certain human jobs? And I'll be honest, a lot of those are within the realm that I work
Hmm.
within. The creative field has come under attack. Coding has come under attack from AI. Now, and I want to put some quotes around that, because yes, we're 3-4 years into this, but it's not perfect. Yeah, you've got the people that'll be like, oh, let's fire our entire creative team and go all AI. We're already seeing people walk that back.
Hmm.
Like, it's not perfect, it's generally kind of ugh, um, and when you're not using it properly.
Yeah.
Um, and I've long said, use AI as a tool in your tool belt,
Hmm.
not the replacement of the worker. It's not the machine that's gonna, make the car. It's the hammer that's in your pocket that's gonna help you
Yeah.
drive that nail in faster. Um, and so that's kind of what I do is, when you talk about it from a business standpoint, is how do you utilize AI to create efficiencies? How do you move quicker with AI and pair that with automation and just be able to get more done in less time? And you know and then from a personal standpoint, like, I've moved away from Google search to AI prompting.
Yeah.
So one of the coolest things, honestly, that I did recently was, my mother, when I was a child, we lived in Germany for a couple years, right around between like 87 and 90. My dad was in the military, actually kind of around the Berlin Wall, when that came down. And so we have a West Germany beer stein. So
Okay.
specifically saying West Germany because this is Cold War
War.
era.
Yeah.
Um,
Pre-wall coming down. Yep.
yeah. And so she sent me a couple photos of it because I was asking, like, hey, do we still have this thing? I kind of have my own personal bar collection of decanters, liquors, and I was like, hey, this could be really cool um, conversation piece. And so she sent me these photos, and I'm like, I have no information on this. I don't know even where to start. So I just dropped the two photos into ChatGPT and say, hey, do whatever you can to help me identify this thing. And it was telling me, okay, because of, and it was like looking at the photos, it was able to kind of visually see it. It identified it had like a regressed kind of picture, so it was cut into the
Okay.
design. I mentioned that it said West Germany, and it gave me all of these details and all of this um, questions to continue my research, kind of refining, like, okay, it's probably one of these three makers, look for these marks on it and all of this stuff. And it's all like, I just 5 minutes on my phone, like, got a photo from my mom. And next thing I know, I'm spouting back to her all of this information. And she's like, how do you know all of that? I'm like, I chat GPT this.
ChatGPT. Yep.
Yeah. So you can integrate that into your daily life really simple, because of like, there's just those things that like, my wife's a baker, and I've been kind of telling her, because you go and look for recipes online, and it's always kind of the same thing where you it's SEO related on Google.
Yeah.
So it's like there's this story that has
Already.
to happen, and then you get to the recipe,
Hmm.
because that's just the way that technology functions. Whereas with ChatGPT, you can just say, "Hey, I want to bake this kind of cake," and it'll give you the recipe, and you can kind of adjust it on the fly and say, I want it to be, this ingredient instead of that ingredient. And I did this somewhat with, like I was mentioning, I have my bar, and I would put in, I have these liquors, I have these mixers, I like this kind of stuff. Give me a drink,
Yeah.
you know, and these are just daily kind of things that you can just utilize in your life that's not business related, and just kind of, I don't know, it's a way of like breaking out of like when you don't know what to ask, ChatGPT can kind of fill in that gap.
Yeah, I have a friend who just tasked himself with the weekend to come up with some sort of new program, and he used AI to basically come up with a recipe where you can just feed in like, I have these. This is what I have in my fridge. I have this. These are the ingredients I have, and it'll spit out and go, "Hey, you can make these 4 things."
Yeah.
Or if you had also had these 2 things, you can make these 3 things, right? And it's just a simple code, and you use AI to help code it. And I think those are great ways of integrating it. I agree with you. I think the tool analogy, AI is a tool, and I think your hammer analogy is great because if you wanted to build a house, it takes me to drive in a nail, it's going to take me 10 swings. There's contractors out there that can do it in 1 or 2.
Hmm.
There's also contractors that can use a nail gun. Now, to build a house, it may take me, if I got to drive in 100 nails, it's going to take me maybe 2 hours. It might take the professional contractor an hour. It might take the guy with the nail gun 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Does it eliminate my job? No, it's like, I don't know how to use a nail gun. I theoretically know how to use it, like aim and point, but I don't know all the, right angle and all things. What happens if it jams?
Yeah.
So AI is a tool, and we've talked. There's a lot of talk of Mr. Beast came out with his AI thumbnail generator, and they were saying, well, don't do it. The artists need it. Like there still is a person who has to put those feeds in. It's not like you can just go to AI. Currently, you can't go to AI and go make me a thumbnail for this. It'll spit out something that's probably not that great. Like there is a skill to it, a skill to prompting. Like there is some of that. I mean, it's getting easier and easier every day. But AI is a tool. No one wants it to take anybody's job. I don't think there's anybody out there who's like, yes, take people's jobs. That's what we want. Even I think owners of businesses don't want to lose people's jobs. They just are going, hey, I have to make money, and this is a way for me to save some cost.
Yeah, and oftentimes, the best opportunities to use AI is when you're at your capacity. Like,
Yeah.
take let's say it's a side job, or a lot of people in the football community, they have websites and it's a hobby,
Yeah.
and they're trying to um, just extend that so that it's um they don't have the money to create a job, so it's
Yeah.
not taking a job, it's just extending their ability. And if they can become a little bit more profitable, it helps them gain a little bit more, to the next level. Maybe it actually creates a job because now they have a budget for it.
Yeah.
um
And if you feel like your job is at risk because of AI, start using AI to free up time so you can learn another skill to make yourself more valuable. Right? Because what employers want is they want someone who can do more than one thing. So if you're going, I'm a coder,
Yep.
well, now use AI to help you code better and become a coder plus, right? What do you add to your skill? Like, what's the skill set you? Maybe it is people management. Maybe it is something else. Maybe you can become the AI expert in your business. We have a common question here. What about the amount of energy that AI uses? Is there a push to make AI more energy efficient? It
yeah
does. I think
yeah
there's always going to be a push to make all technology, right? We could talk about with crypto mining, all those things are super not energy efficient. And I think if someone came out and said like, "Hey, our AI engine is powered by green energy," I think people would love that.
Well, did you hear that Meta? I haven't confirmed this, but I feel like I saw a headline. Meta purchased a nuclear power plant.
No, I hadn't seen that.
Yeah. I'll have to fact check myself, but I feel like I saw that headline come up, and it makes sense. There's been a lot of conversation about AI energy efficiency needs could reignite. Maybe that's a bad term to use, but the kind of nuclear energy in this country, because of the need for something
Yeah.
sustaining. And we've been making big strides in if there's, I think it's fission or fusion, whatever the cold fusion
Fusion.
technology. Yeah, so molecules coming together creating energy. Um, we've been making some really big strides in the last like year or so, because I've been watching that technology, and when that gets unlocked, I mean, you're talking about potentially limitless, um, efficient energy
Yeah.
coming from these. So
I searched it. Meta is paying to keep a nuclear plant in Illinois up and running starting in 27, and they're buying all the clean energy attributes of Constellation's Energy, Clifton's Clean Energy Center. So it's a nuclear plant. They're basically paying to keep it open. But it'll
gotcha.
go. They're not buying it to like power their own stuff. They're just keeping it open. So it's part of their green initiative.
Okay, that makes sense. But kind of sidestepping this is the big talk of the AI is because of data centers,
Yeah.
and these massive warehouses that hold all of these computers that are running day in and day out, and they take a lot of energy. The big key here is that it's not just AI that's doing this. It's
Yeah.
all of the data for all of the technology that we use on computers.
Yeah.
Websites themselves are all on in these data
Yep.
centers, and you've got cooling that has to happen through that. You've got all of this energy usage. So, like, it's not that AI and energy efficiency is a false flag or just something that's not like really true. It is, but there's also other things that are doing just as much damage, and we need to figure out this whole process, this whole solve this whole problem. And I think there's a lot of people working on that, and we're going to get there.
Yeah, and I'm trying to bring an environmental lawyer on in a couple of weeks, hopefully, to just talk about energy, environmental safety and concerns. But I think you're right. It's not just AI that is sucking up a ton of power. It's every website you ever go to.
Yeah,
You watching this right now on YouTube is sucking up a ton of power.
us recording this is
Yes, all this
sucking it
stuff
up.
is just sucking up power. So if you're going to rally and rail against AI and the power it uses, like every time you're on your cell phone, every time you get on a website, you hop on Twitter, you hop on Instagram, you're scrolling TikTok, you're it's the same thing. Like they're all using those data centers and they're all
Mhm.
sucking a ton of energy. And I think as a whole, we have moved more towards, cleaner energy, right? Solar farms are a bigger thing now. My hope is that AI will help make those things right as AI saves companies money, that those savings eventually get moved down. So if solar panels are no longer $1,000 to buy, then maybe they're $800 to buy or $500 to buy,
Sure.
and then companies can afford to put more of those in. So as that grows, as that things become more efficient, efficiencies will save money, right? That's just the bottom line is
Yeah.
that you're saving money. Eventually, that does trickle down and gets passed on to somewhere else, and hopefully that eventually will save itself. Now, it's not going to be an easy process. It's not a quick process, but eventually we'll get there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's constant evolution with all of this. There's always something new coming, and then we have to see, what's going to come from that. Look, we talked about people losing jobs, and automation. The trucking industry right now is under major fire with potentially like self-driving trucks.
Yep.
They're already on the roadway. Um, I've got a relative that's a truck driver. If that over the next 10 years may be a major evolution,
Yeah.
change in our economy. And so we're all seeing this play out in front of us. And there's definitely big positives and there's definitely big negatives, and it's just kind of the reality of life.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's with any sort of technology. There's going to be positives and negatives, right? You can talk about when the computer came out, there was people that were effective. You brought up in that space as like typist
Yeah.
was a thing, and then also computers came out. It's like, oh, we don't necessarily need you as much. Um, there's just going to be things where and I think people talk about with AI, especially with image generation and now movie generation, does that kill artists? And I think it doesn't. It actually frees them up to be more artistic.
Yeah, I would say human art is going to become more valuable
Yeah,
because it's going to be less, I don't want to say less popular. It's going to be like there's going to be more of this AI. And I saw it was kind of a satire clip of basically someone going up to movie kiosk. They want to see the latest movie, and the guy says, "Well, do you want AI film or a human film?"
Yeah.
And the guy says, "Human." Uh, and he says, "Okay, well, that'll be $150 for the ticket. Do you
Yeah.
want ads or do you want no ads?
Yep.
Like, um, oh, you'll take ads. All right, now it's like $80 for your ticket. Like, that's satire, but it's not necessarily far from what the truth would be.
Yeah.
Like, if someone can mass produce a bunch of cheap AI images, yeah, you'll probably be able to go out. You could purchase that for pennies.
Yeah.
But then somebody that's like a true artist puts their time and energy into it, and it's a really unique piece in the swarm of AI, then that's going to be kind of really valued, and people are going to pay a lot of money for something like that.
Yeah, people are going to pay for the creativeness and the human touch, because at the end of the day, AI doesn't have that personality and that connection to people, because it's a person to person connection is different than a person to computer connection. And I
Yeah.
think you're right. Like, we're going to see artists have more time to be creative in terms of what they can produce and what they think to produce. If I'm looking at a graphic designer who right now has to churn out a bunch of thumbnails because that pays the bills, well, now they can do it with AI, and they still might be the person who does it just with prompts, and they can now, instead of taking their 40-hour work week and they're spending 30 hours doing thumbnails, they can spend 10 hours. That gives them 20 hours to then create a stunning piece of art or some other piece of graphic design, or maybe they can come with a different a more creative marketing campaign or whatever it might be, because they've now freed up time with AI. It's not just going to replace them, it's going to allow them to do bigger and better things and more creative things because they have more free time.
Yeah, absolutely. And there was another question that popped up here about loss of intellectual property, voice actors, concerns with their voices getting stolen or used without consent. I think with just about any technology, there's a level of um, uh, the regulation that needs to be
Yeah.
in place. There's IP laws for a reason, and so I think that we're going to see at some point that there's going to be some amount of ethics that are put into AI usage, and some road guidelines as far as you can't stealing someone's voice. We're already kind of dealing with some of these things now. E- that's going to play out, and I believe it's going to play out in the courts, and
Yeah.
then some, it's going to be legislated, and there's going to be some avenues to where, I mean, you can look, you don't need AI necessarily to steal someone's music, or Napster was around, that was a
Yep.
thing, and it was just, maybe it's not recreating new things, but it's theft of people's work. Like, intellectual property violations have been around for a very long time. So
Yeah.
it's just, we're in a new era of that with new challenges. As a creative person myself, like, I try and be very specific. If I prompt my uh utilize AI for anything like that's illustrative or creative, um to be very specific from what's in my head, not let it kind of do its own thing,
Yeah.
because it goes out and it takes influences from many other pieces and information that's out there. um I need to be the one that puts the guardrails on and says, like, I'm looking for something very specific, and I've seen this done really well. Last year with the Scott Fishbowl Avi makers, it kind of concluded this process of, like, a lot of these guys were using AI to create these profile images for people that were buying them, and it sped up the process and everything. But it was a combination of, like, using a prompt to get a certain look and get certain things included, and then kind of overlaying that with your own work, your own writing, on top of it. And so, you know, going back to this being a tool, that's how you use it. And look, you have to craft your tool to be very specific to what you need it to be.
Yeah, I agree. And right, bad actors are always going to be bad actors, right? In terms of if they want to steal someone's IP, they're going to steal their IP, right? 20 years ago, there was nothing stopping someone in Russia or anywhere of putting an ad out with name a celebrity, right? Michael Jackson, and he's not getting paid for that. Just put his picture and they Photoshop a Pepsi can in his hand, or
It's happening now.
It's happening now, right? And I
China,
think
yeah.
we have more because of the globalization, because of the internet, which is a technology.
Yeah.
There's going to be more people who are going to rally against us. So if voice actors, I understand. So if you're a voice actor and you do the voice of a character, and then also you feel like it's being stolen, as soon as you say that, like once that comes out, that company's probably going to get shut down. Like the people don't want that, and they don't want to see that, so they're going to rally against it. They're going to be like, oh, well, it's good. We'll just take this anyway. That's why I don't think it'll happen. Like, I don't think people are going to lose their jobs because, like, I don't need your voice. We have seen people like license their voice and go, hey, you can now script it, and that's totally different because they're allowing that. But I think if it's done without someone's permission and they are losing their IP, that'll come out. Like, that very rarely happens where you don't know about it. It's very rarely that I haven't yet to see a major anything where it's like, hey, this was someone's stolen IP, and without it having some sort of major backlash. So yes, it might happen, but that was going to happen anyway. If you want to dub, like the old dub movies are just really kind of stolen IP on something. Like they took a Japanese movie and then dubbed it into English, and you can say they stole that IP. Of course, they licensed it, but it's the same thing. Like people aren't going to tolerate that.
Yeah, I think to really take this into a scary place is talk about bad actors. The amount of scams that are perpetuated on us at a daily rate. Having someone say it's not an actor, say somebody steals your voice and then you calls your parents and uses your voice with AI to have them wire you, their life savings. This is something that is a reality that is kind of happening. Like maybe not so much widespread stealing of people's voices, but look, somebody could call you up and all you have to say is, hello, who is this? Something along those lines. They get enough of a clip and the AI can put that together. And then they really target you. So you got to be very careful. The company that I work for is also in cybersecurity. So this stuff is on my mind. But I was talking to a buddy and he said that somebody called his parents up. They didn't use his voice, but they said they were him. And just did the whole like sob routine. You got to send me money now. And luckily, he said that he had a safe word set up with his parents so that if there's an event like that, they, would ask him a specific question and he would give a specific word and they would know whether or not it was real.
Yeah. I mean, grandparents scam was a thing. My grandfather got called, probably 10 years ago. And someone was like, hey, it's your grandson. He was like, Dustin. And they're like, yeah. And it was like, I was somehow skiing in Canada and needed money. And he called my mom and I happened to be on a bus ride and I didn't have my cell phone got out of service and it just turned this whole thing. But people who want to take advantage of things are always going to do it no matter if there's AI or not. Like they can do it without AI. AI just helps them do it. So again, with any tool, back to the hammer hammer thing, like if AI is a nail gun, someone can take a nail gun and shoot you with a nail gun. Like they can modify a nail gun to make it a weapon that can hurt someone and use it outside of what it's intended for.
Yep. Absolutely.
Again, if someone's just going to there shooting nail guns everywhere, we're like as a society and as people, we're going to put an end to that. Like we're not going to allow that to happen. So I think when we see these people who like want to steal IP, I think that's where we're going to step and go, no, we're not going to watch your movie. We're not going to buy your game. We're not going to watch your show that is stolen IP.
Yeah, it's negative consequences that society puts on people like that. It's going to take a transition to recognize that as a community. But we'll get there, for sure.
Yeah, we'll get there for sure. Well, Nate, this has been great. Thank you so much for coming on talking about integrating technology into work, into life, and kind of some of the pitfalls and benefits of it. Before we get out of here, give everybody a shout out, what you got going on, where they can find you, and anything you want to shout out.
Sure. Yeah, you can find me generally on Twitter at Nate Cheat. If you're in the fantasy football community, join me in Canton, Ohio in August at the Fantasy Football Expo. That's an amazing weekend event. And I will be in Chicago for Scott Fishbowl Live this Saturday. So excited for that.
And if you guys are looking for some technology, cybersecurity, you get them up for Evernote, where you're the marketing and sales director. So appreciate you getting on. Appreciate everyone tuning in tonight, asking your questions. We got a few more guests coming up. So in a couple weeks, we have Sam Dema coming on, who's a keynote speaker to talk about living a life of kindness and what that can do for you and kind of what that does for your mindset and what it does for your life and for other people's lives. So until then, see you guys next time.